Okay, hello and welcome to anyone listening to this episode of Win-Win Talks. And big welcome to you, Per Olsson, Deputy Science Director at Stockholm Resilience Centre. We are going to have a conversation today about Domingo Pias, the winner of Win-Win Award 2025 under the theme Trailblazing Leadership. And in this episode, we will explore more about the reasoning behind choosing Domingo Pias as this year's awardee among amazing nominees and finalists. And with that, also talk about the deeper global relevance of his work and his perspective and the communities that he speaks from. Before I introduce you a bit further, I'll introduce Domingo Pias for anyone not familiar with him. He is an indigenous leader from Ecuador of the Achor people. He is also a president of the organization Amazon Sacred Headwater Alliance, and they're working across Peru and Ecuador to protect the rainforest from deforestation and extractive industries. Under Domingo's leadership, the organization have united over 30 indigenous nationalities with this one common mission. And he is also the co-founder of the Living School of the Amazon, an initiative that aims to empower and educate the next generation of indigenous leaders in the region. The aim of the school is to ensure the wisdom of the Amazon's indigenous peoples continue to guide future generations in stewarding their territories. So that is Domingo Pias. And Per, you are a brilliant person to have this conversation with. You are, among other things, a transdisciplinary researcher at Stockholm Resilience Centre, leading expert in sustainability transformations, adaptive governance, and social ecological systems. So we're really happy to have you here.
Thank you.
You're also, of course, a valued member of the Win-Win Award jury. Starting off, from your perspective, what was it about Domingo that made him stand out among so many amazing nominees this year? How can his leadership style, do you think, serve as a model for global governance on environmental issues?
First of all, I think what he and his collaborators have achieved when it comes to how much land they have protected. I think it's the size of Germany that's protected. I think it's also the way he has been a leader and co-leading this change in very complex environments. So it's very difficult, I think, as I understand, to just get these 30 nations together and lead that work. So that's a complexity, but also with the colonial history that has involves deep trauma, fragmentation, etc., to in that context also lead the way and the current in the context of the current problems, because there are sometimes a lot of parallel processes going on when it comes to illegal logging, hunting, trafficking, etc. in this region that adds to this complex environment, and I think it's absolutely fantastic what they have achieved there.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's 35 million hectares currently that they're protecting, so it's massive accomplishments. So leading off from that, how do you think, because Domingo's way of leading challenges kind of conventional, more Western ideas maybe about what it means to be a leader. How do you think that works when we're shedding light on this initiative this year? And do you think that redefining leadership today can help us shift the systems that we're trying to transform, scrutinize that meaning of it?
Absolutely. I think we it's critical right now in the turbulent time that we're in, that we really question the kind of what we put in the word leadership and how we defined it as, for example, something that is collective and not sort of based on an egocentric and a view of leadership, and also this monomyth, single heroes
Yeah.
that's gonna save the world, but actually the collective leadership and also I think what is key, I think, is that the leadership comes from a place that sees nature as a relationship and not as an asset. So, and I think a relationship that includes care, reciprocity, accountability, all these things, and I think that's exactly what we need in the world. And I think I think that's the big shift for going a leadership that builds and understands that deeply, not just like nature is important, but really understand it in a much deeper way and act from that. That's I think is key, and that's what I see with Domingo.
Yeah. It's really interesting. So with what you just said, it really rhymes true with what Win-Win Word I think is really trying to achieve, with acknowledging him this year and just in general with the award every year. Initiatives that are bold and that are necessary to drive the change that the world needs, that we all need. So on more a global scale, what do you think that Domingo's work and perspective mean, not only for the Amazon, but for the definition of sustainability and sustainable development right now?
Well, I think this sort of the interconnectedness, the intertwinedness, that with nature and humans and nature relationships, I think is key. That we need that everywhere.
Yeah.
And also the ways to make sense of the world, what's happening around us. We need, and Domingo and other indigenous leaders and people can lead the way there, and also how we not just make sense of the world, but also how we keep momentum in the transformations that we need to do towards a more just and sustainable futures. In the context of backlash and resistance from the system, and I think that's what they also show a great leadership, and Domingo and the others, like how do you put up a resistance when you need to resist, and that's for today, for example, is about protecting our democracies, protecting scientific integrity. We need it in many places to put up a resistance, but there's also resistance from the status quo, from the old system that you also need to deal with. There's backlash, there's and how do you deal with that backlash and keep momentum, which and Domingo's leadership is so important and can lead the way there. Yeah,
it's really showing both resistance and leadership and perseverance as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So drawing from what you just said, that we need more of this, just in general in the world. How do you? This is a big question, but how do you think? What are the chances, and how could we go about integrating these different knowledge systems? Because we want to award Domingo PS this year, but the question, what now? How can we integrate all these perspectives?
That's a big challenge, because there is a problem there when it comes to when I say we need this from them. So it's a really good question. So because the historically there has been a process of appropriation and co-optation of indigenous ways of knowing. So that's a real important question, and I think that's also what we have a chance to discuss when Domingo is here in Gothenburg. Is how do we do that? That's a good question. We need to talk about that. Yeah. I think Domingo and other indigenous leaders are key in leading the way, but exactly how that's going to look like is pretty much up to them. and maybe us together.
Great. And you just mentioned that he's coming to Gothenburg, which he is, Domingo Fias, and our youth award winner Juan Pierre as well. Is there anything you look forward to asking Domingo or learning from him whilst he's here?
Well, I think this how do we do this together?
Yeah.
On what premises? What do we need to also? What I think it should be a conversation about, for example, I'm a middle-aged white man, also a lot part of the problems. So what do I need to let go of? What do we need to let go of? What do we need to hospice in order to have fruitful and important collaborations? So I think that's something that I hope we can talk about, and also I hope we can also talk about this. They have a philosophy called Buen Vivir, and I think that's also I'm interested in that philosophy, and to know more about that, because it has this that nature and humans and nature are inseparable, and that it's a relationship, and the whole relational thinking, like it's not just a relationship to nature, but to ourselves and to others and to ancestors and to future generations. So I think that's a really interesting sort of a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, it's about learning and unlearning, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, with that, we need to wrap up this episode. Thank you, Per, so much for this conversation. And I want to encourage anyone who's interested in these topics to follow along during our award week in October to learn more about Domingo and also Juan Pierre from Mauritius. So thank you.
Thanks.